Good morning, grand risings to you all. Amanda Ambles, and I'm back in my favourite wood. It's pretty windy today, so I do hope that the audio is alright. My last microphone, I had some issues with it, so had a bit of a gap in making videos. And so the title of this video is Wellness and Wonder. And I must confess, I did steal that title from a day that the council had yesterday in the town hall. Just thought it was rather ironic that they're talking about all of these things like connecting with nature and all of these things about wonder, when I think the last place on earth that has wonder is the actual rooms where the council meet in the chambers. Feels kind of devoid of wonder there. And in terms of wellness, I think a lot of people are quite stressed out about some of their approaches and policies. And when I did talk about the suicide of the lady that occurred because of the missing money for the red brick building, which wasn't a small amount, so yeah, it was millions, so I thought it was rather rich that they should have a day called Wellness and Wonder. But I'm wanting to do more stuff on my channel about health. I did interview the lovely Amir, who I'm lucky enough to have as a housemate, and he has a lot of knowledge about energetic health and wellness. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about the wonder that I feel when I'm out in the woods, I'm out in nature, I'm swimming in the sea, or in the sea water at least. And beyond everything, beyond even human contact, this for me is my cathedral. This is my church, is the woods, is nature. And this is where I find my solace, where I can reflect on things that have been going on. And some of you may know that recently I have been the victim, although I'm not taking on the victim mentality. I was the victim of bullying and abuse and harassment. And I think this has become quite commonplace, particularly, in the world of the internet. And I think so many lovely people, including many of the lovely ladies that I follow in their channels, have been the target or subject to this. So I'm really glad that I spoke out about it. But my advice would be ignore, block and report. And I've done all those things. And although I'm not a big fan of the police, somehow it made me feel quite good to give a police number, because, the severity of these things can cause people to have breakdowns, can really affect people's self-esteem. So that's what I'd say to you. If you're ever the subject of this, I would just, ignore, don't respond, take screenshots, report, and basically walk away with your head held high. And it was interesting, I was watching a video this morning about empaths that have become sovereign. So very often after narcissistic abuse, and that abuse might be in a romantic relationship, but as I discovered as well, narcissistic abuse can be in institutions, places that you work, in the actual the mechanisms, the machinations of the place, of the sort of energy of what's going on there. And also it can be in our friendship relationships as well. And I do feel that this bullying is tantamount to narcissistic abuse. So if my abusers are watching, I'm doing very well. I've been on a weight loss journey now for the last 4 months, and I've lost a whole stone, and I'm feeling good, and nothing or nobody is going to get me off this wellness path and this wonder path that I live. So every morning I count my blessings. I hold my dog, I stroke my dog next to me, and I feel really blessed and happy and just appreciative to be alive. And I'm so lucky to live in Glastonbury, which on one level is a very magical place, but politically, you know, I can see through the manipulations and the corruption and lies. So, you know, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But yeah, it's very freeing actually when you are faced and challenged with these things. Because, you know, the other thing is, you know, it's important to also look at our shadow. I'm not just sort of like pushing them away. They've shown me something about myself. There's obviously something I'm not protecting about myself. There must be holes in my container. If you watch the video with the mirror, you'll know we have containers. And I believe that these containers are also energetic containers. So mine obviously had some holes in it, and it allowed these people to get in. And I take all responsibility for, you know, my anger, my reaction. But it's just that when it was doubled with grief, it did amplify the situation. So, wonder. How do you find wonder? I find wonder in the small things in life. I try this thing of random acts of kindness every time I do a store. I usually give one item away. So last Friday I gave away, it was one of these little steel tongue drums, and there was this lovely carer and a mother and a teenager or a young man who was had a disability in a wheelchair, and it was wonderful the way they were interacting with him, the way they were being with him, and it just really brought home to me how lucky I am to have my arms and legs, to be able to walk, to be able to do things independently. Really brought that home to me. So I did actually gift one of these little tongue drums to him. And I think that, you know, spreading the wonder brings wonder to your life. So if you can spread kindness, wonder, all of those good things in life, then that's great, isn't it? Even if you're taking, even the simple thing of taking your dog to a beautiful place like this woodland here. But I'd really like to know how you bring wonder into your life. And yesterday I was visiting my beautiful mother, and you know what brings her wonder is country music. And she watches Willy Nelson, and she just basically is in like almost like a childlike wonder at the performances, the guitar performances, the singing, and she is, you know, wrapped in wonder when she's watching this. And you know, when we watch children, it's literally like, you know, okay, they're emotional sometimes and they cry, but it's almost like, you know, it's screaming of wonder, like yelling with wonder at everything. You know, could be an acorn on the ground, could be the tiniest thing, and they're our greatest teachers, really, aren't they? So when I was a youngster, I used to often spend a lot of time on my hands, cartwheeling. I was really big on gymnastics, and oh, there's a little beautiful butterfly on my pathway there. So I used to, instead of walking down a corridor, I guess you've got two choices. You can walk on your feet or you can walk on your hands. So, you know, my choice as a child was to do backflips, to do handstands, and I was just like such a bouncy, joyful child, very physical. And yeah, I'm pleased to say that I'm going to the gym regularly now, doing Zumba, doing aerobics, and I'm really getting back into enjoying movement. And the latest thing I really want to do more of is yoga, because as Amir said in his last video, it really balances your mind, your spirit, your body. And so yeah, wellness and wonder, they're very connected, aren't they? We feel well when we feel wonder. And another source of wonder and wellness to me is poetry. And I know many of you love poetry. You may write poetry or read others' poetry. And I guess for me, you know, life itself is quite a poetic expression, and words are full of wonder to me. I once was at a festival and I was thinking to myself, wow, you know, words are wonderful, aren't they? And at that moment, I basically was thinking that words must have come from another dimension or another place. And at that moment, I looked up at the sky and there was a shooting star in that moment. It was almost confirming to me about the wonder of words coming from another place, another dimension. So yeah, although this video did start off a bit cynical, I think really one of my big gifts in life, you know, and of course I've got my shadow sides and my insecurities, but bringing wonder. I did write a children's book in 2011 called Wish, Wonder, Surprise, and I guess it's that childlike wonder that we can all bring to the world and keep in our hearts that is such a treasure. So let me know what things bring you wonder. And in terms of wellness, you know, we can't separate our psychic, you know, our psyches to our, you know, the wonder and the wellness that we feel. The two, as I've mentioned before, and we all know, and, you know, it's been, you know, scientifically discovered that our mind creates our wellness, doesn't it? And I guess just the wonder of being alive and witnessing things like the trees moving, branches moving in the wind, and all of this, even the rainfall, which brings life, sustains life. Even that itself is very worthy of wonder, isn't it? And then when we witness and aware of these things, we become well, we become whole. I guess, you know, wellness is also linked in with feeling whole, feeling, you know, imbibing those good energies that are out there in the world. And you look at these leaves falling off the tree, they're actually going to feed the ground for the trees to grow back next year. It's a magical, incredible cycle, isn't it? There's been a lot more awareness about mycelium underground, the interconnectedness of that, how that connects and has conversations underneath the ground, the mycelium. All of the roots of these trees, you know, they're all living entities, aren't they? So, you know, they have roots, they have branches, they imbibe the sunlight to be alive and well. And just like that, we need sustenance as well. We need grounding. We need all of those things to thrive, not just survive. And I think it's very easy to forget the whole thing about thriving, isn't it? Look at these ferns who are opening up to the light. They're thriving, so we can thrive just like these ferns. So I'm just sheltering under a tree and listening to the beautiful sound of the rain on the leaves. And to me, that really does feel like an affirmation of life and makes me feel well, makes me feel vibrant, makes me feel part of all this. One of the things is that we are not just taking in the food that we eat, although there's a lot of emphasis on that these days, and the energy of that food. You know, there's the energy that's all around. You know, it could be what energy a human being emanates. You know, we live in an electrical universe, so everything has an aura, everything has a spiritual body, I believe, and that's, I guess, a bit akin to animism. So it's everything, it's our thoughts, our thought processes, and our entire body is receiving these pulses. I studied hypnotherapy, and we have neural pathways in our mind, and if we go over those certain negative neural pathways, and that's what we reinforce. So it's just the same, you know, with how we perceive everything. And recently Tim spoke about karma and that he believed in karma, and there is definitely consequences of our actions, not just on others but also on ourselves. And sometimes it's very hard to believe when we look at all the political situations and the injustice and corruption going on in the world. You know, what's going on in Gaza with this genocide is just beyond comprehension, isn't it? And the fact that they've just invited, you know, the Israeli leader to London, arresting, you know, elderly people on the streets for standing up against the genocide, you know, convicting an innocent woman, you know, Lucy Letby, you know, for multiple murders. It feels really like the world has gone crazy. So, you know, the whole thing of karma, you know, that's tied in with Buddhism. I do believe that, you know, life goes around, energies go around, that there is such a thing as reincarnation. Even Willy Nelson talks about coming back as a drop of rain. And my mum, as she's aging, I mentioned her before, she's become obsessed with Willy Nelson and his beautiful long hair and, you know, playing guitar. But I think there's something quite reassuring to my mum, who's 87 now, to her, that she may come back as a drop of rain, or a leaf, or an insect, or an animal. And I think there's really a place for that. So a lot of wellness is also to do with peace of mind. And, you know, the struggle is to care, but to basically stand into our own sovereignty, and especially as empaths, especially as highly sensitive people. Anyway, that's quite a lot of rambling from Amanda Ambles today, but it's good to be back out in the woods, speaking my mind, speaking my truths, and, you know, I'd love to hear, you know, your idea of what wellness is for you, and wonder. How do you fill your life with wonder and wellness? Loads of love to you. Have a beautiful day, wonder-filled day. Take care. Bye.